Hello and welcome to the Happiness Summit. My name is Danielle Green. I am the Alchemy Fairy. Today, I'd like to speak to you about rebuilding from burnout, shifting and transmuting your energy from survival mode into thrive mode. So, a little bit about me. I am a keynote speaker, I'm a coach, educator, creative. I help ambitious professionals shift from burnout and from surviving into thrive mode and how that looks for them. Drawing from experience in education, working with the government, technology, I've taught at different school levels, high school levels, college level, university, working with different financial C-suite leaders in compliance and risk management and other industries since 2018. And I worked on a Department of State machine learning project, blending ambition, ethics, artificial intelligence, compassion to help women build sustainable success. So today we're going to talk about what is our purpose, what's going to happen. We're going to go through different stages of burnouts, a little bit of story time, a little bit of background. We're going to go over some lessons learned. These might be lessons you've already learned or are in the process of learning or maybe have heard about from a girlfriend or family member. Or whoever's in your inner circle, right? We all kind of have these stages and cycles of life. So this is to kind of connect on those. We're going to talk about call of action, some things you can work on now that can help you for later. We're going to talk about integrating those changes, those different, whatever speaks to you, how to integrate them, the timeline for that, and then just an invitation at the end if you're interested. So today we're talking about how to rebuild from the ashes of burnout when you feel exhausted. If you have ever felt at the end of the day like you are just a husk of a person, a shell of your former self, I'm talking to you. And if you haven't, I'm so happy for you. I wish you only beautiful things. And if you have, if you're there now, these are the beautiful things I want to give to you. Okay. This is what I want to share with you. Ways to come out of that, ways to transmute it. Take those feelings of depletion, not enoughness, not connected to your inner being, not grounded, and just feeling bone tired on so many levels. And what to do when you do feel that way, if that does happen. So it's how to make that shift. That's what we're going to focus on together today. We're going to reroute challenges at a different pace or see if there's ways you could use delegation or shift the timing around different priorities that you might be balancing in life in order to still be achieving. So we're not saying sacrifice your dreams. We're not saying go live in the woods. We're saying how can you do everything you dream to be, everything you dream to do in personal and business, and how do you take that and make it manageable where you're not like exhausting yourself at the end of every single day? What does that look like? So story time. So there was a time for me that I experienced that kind of inspired this speech. So I want to share it with you. So my journey with burnout, it was similar to what I kind of described already. It was feeling exhausted at the end of the day. It was feeling tired and where you almost kind of go numb emotionally because you have nothing left to give. That's where I was. I was so depleted energetically, emotionally, physically, where I started like making silly mistakes, or I had this disconnection between my mind, my thoughts, like what I was trying to say or do, like even household chores, even something very simple and basic that we're all intelligent beings, right? So normally it would be fine, but when you're so depleted, even the smallest task can feel like experiencing your Everest moment. And it's hard. It's hard to figure out like what's wrong with me. You feel like what's wrong with you, you know? At least I did. And if you haven't, I'm so happy for you. But if you have and you know what I'm talking about, if this resonates with you, you're fine. Let's talk about that. So I was having interrupted sleep. I wasn't able to sleep well. And if I had to do research on my sleep and looking for different resources about like, is this normal? What is normal for amounts of adult sleep for a woman who's of a certain age or preparing to be a certain age? And what looks like meeting those needs because I just felt so depleted. I was like, all of these needs are not being met. I need to do better for me, for my inner child, for the future that I want, the life I want to build, the role model I want to demonstrate for my child. Like I want to be that good example, not the cautionary tale, right? And so looking at what are those emotional red flags, because they started coming up for me, where I had a shorter fuse, where I had less patience, where I had difficulty like completing trains of thought. You know, the train would leave the station and then it would fizzle out before it got to the destination, if you've ever experienced that. Or like when you walk into a room, you're like, why am I here? I keep forgetting this. And this has happened three, four times in a day or in a week, whatever the pacing might be, depending on level of fatigue, of weariness. And physical flags, I started having difficulty like hand-eye coordination. Even walking the dog became dangerous. I fell. Not cute, really not great. But I like misjudged the distance between my eyes and my feet and the ground and wiped out completely. I went to the ER. It was traumatic. So obviously a red flag. Now, hopefully your red flags are a little bit more gentle than some of mine that I experienced. But I just want to say, like, my ignoring what my body was trying to communicate to me at the time just kept compounding the escalation, where my body is like basically shouting at me, like, listen, take a step back. This is too much. You do too much. You burn the candle at both ends. And my body was like, done with me, done with my shenanigans. Okay. And so maybe that resonates with some of you guys, but that's just my story, my experience with it. It was like, I just felt like my body was shouting at me, we need to slow down. This is too much. This is not sustainable. And as an entrepreneur, as a mother, as a partner, like, you want to take those warning signs when your body speaks to you seriously. That's what I learned. That's one of my takeaways from that moment. And then I came across Lewis Howe's School of Greatness podcast, if you're familiar. And he had a guest speaker on there, David Guillaume. And so apparently he comes on a couple different times. So he has a few episodes. But this specific episode lives rent-free in my brain even to now, even like years later, it lives in my brain. And I've listened to it probably four or five times since I first heard it. And David and Lewis, they're kind of chatting through this different concept of you are a vessel. Your physical form is a vessel. And David's he has like religious affiliation, so I won't get really heavy into that. But if you're familiar, that plays a role too from that perspective. But for us today, I want to focus on the concept of capacity. So vessel as capacity. Um, and that there are limits. So, like on the screen, you see different vases or vases, if you're fancy. So there's different sizes and shapes. None of them are wrong or bad, but they have different limitations, right? Structural limitations, physical limitations. And that doesn't mean anything's wrong or broken with them, but they have them and they have to be acknowledged for their purpose. And so looking at this mortal coil as a shell, what are my limitations? So I had to kind of sit with that, reflect and evaluate of where am I hitting my limits, trying to exceed them. Maybe I have and been short-term, temporarily successful, but the payment on the other side of pushing past limits is now coming due. Like the rent's got to be paid with my body of those payments, right? When I have exceeded the limitations. And it creates damage, right? It creates unwellness, dis-ease, it creates anxiety, it creates the insomnia. Um, and so my my aha moment that I kind of connected with this podcast episode that was so good. And if you want to know, like feel free to reach out to me at the end. I'll share with you the episode link if you need it, but the title is Four Steps to Manifest Miracles in Abundance. And so it's looking at you get there's this moment of clarity about getting hit over the head and shattering, and the positive of having the shattering moment some people might call it rock bottom. They might feel like they're at the end of their rope, like they're really pushing past everything. Like it feels like life explodes and there's nothing you can do. Everything is just falling off a cliff, or falling off a hill, whatever dramatic expression feels good for you. But for me, it felt like this vessel moment of being cracked wide open. And so you have the image on the floor of this teacup moment just being cracked open as a vessel for beverage, right? And so I had seven things in a row, and seven's a magical number, right? We are the alchemy fairy, and we acknowledge magical numbers when they yell at us in the face. And so on this one day, within a 24-hour period, I got seven signs that was like, this shouldn't have happened, but it did. This shouldn't have happened, but it did. And it was something silly. The day started something as silly as my hair got caught in my visor while I was driving. And it's like, and I looked down to like make it could have been a smarter choice. I tried to pull my hair free, right? And so I pulled my hair free from the visor as I was driving because I felt trapped. I was like a trapped animal for a moment. And then I rolled over the wheel to a curb. There was a curb that had like gradually appeared around the corner, right? And I didn't know the car was that in that position. And so straightening out the car, the tire pops. And I'm like, how did my hair get stuck? Which was in a bun. It was a messy bun. So if you're familiar, they get a little crazy. So the messy bun got caught, and then we popped a tire because the messy bun got caught. And like none of that makes sense in my brain. Never in my years of existence have I ever had that happen before or anything near to those circumstances. So it's very strange. So it was like a series of unfortunate events. If you've seen that movie, that was like my day of seven very unfortunate events. And it just kind of like I felt like spirit and the universe kind of took me by the shoulders and shook me awake. Like, look, I need for you to make this change, sweetheart. I love you, but you're being too much for your life. Wake up, right? It was this wake up moment. So then, I had to sit with that. I had to look at that. I had to look at, wow, this is a lot of being cracked over the head by the universe, as David kind of explained in the podcast. And I was like, what is going on? How much is me? How much is not me? How much should I take ownership for? And had this like reflection moment about looking at causes of stress and just understanding like I was exceeding all of my boundaries of feeling stressed out. And that was less than ideal. I was doing too much, and I was going to school for my second master's because one's not enough. I was in a relationship that I ended up having to leave because that was a point of stress where there was no consolation. There was no meeting in the middle on anything, which was unfortunate. So then I was overcompensating there, overcompensating in the second master's. There were so many different layers and iterations of me doing too much in all aspects of life where I'm just like, we just need to see what is essential and not essential, and everything not essential, pause. That was my choice. Whatever feels right for you may look differently. So I'm not handing this out prescriptively as like, this is what you should do, but I'm just saying for me, that felt aligned to pause non-essential things. We don't necessarily have to do everything or everything on the same day. And I feel like for me, when I was doing everything on the same day, highly productive, at the end of the day was when I felt like walking death. I felt like I turned myself into a zombie, which was not great. I can't be a good mom as a zombie mom. Not ideal. Or good for myself, taking care of myself as an individual. I didn't want to cook a good meal. I didn't want to take care of myself. I just wanted to pass out and go to sleep. Doing more, I was learning, was not the solution. Burning the candle at both ends. Yes, I was getting so much done, but I wasn't able to enjoy it. I wasn't able to set myself up for success for the next day because I didn't have anything left in the tank, so to speak, for energy wise. So taking all of what felt like it was going wrong on that day of seven and reflecting on it and just saying, I needed to cut out, there were certain friendships and that relationship, cut out toxic relationships, release myself from them if they're not serving my purpose, my highest good, all the things that I want to grow and that are beautiful and I want to accomplish. And then started asking people who offered help Yes, please help me. Can you help me? Like, let's touch base on that. Let's see what options there are. Going to therapy, simplifying work, and simplifying home life. If I was trying to cook a 15-step meal, I tried to look for recipes that were 3 or 4 steps, 3 or 4 ingredients. Just simplifying ways to take care of myself, take care of my son, and find ways to take care of like my business I wanted to grow. And what mattered most, staying alive, healing, and I just went into this very like deeply restful kind of hibernation state for everything that was non-essential. And I had a lot of epiphanies during this period of rest, including I realized the house that I was building it on the foundation of scarcity. And when you build a house on a foundation of scarcity, it cannot be fruitful. It just can't. That's not the ground that it's on. It is not fertile. It is not healthy. It's barren. And that was a hard pill to swallow and acknowledge. But sometimes that's the case. You build out of fear, you don't build out of prosperity. And I had that completely unlocked a different realm of existence for me. And I took rest as seriously as I take my job. And I knew that I need 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep a night. And that might sound crazy, but I treated that like a requirement. And I started seeing and feeling like my energy started flowing back into me in waves. Like I can wake up and I don't need coffee. I can wake up and I can want to exercise because I had the energy for it finally. I found that with rest came answers because I feel like if you ask, the universe will tell you if you're able to listen. So I started receiving answers on things. Don't do this. Yes, do this. You were worried about this. Here's clarity. And journaling and daily meditation became non-negotiables as well to help kind of process those feelings, those thoughts, that recovery period. And from the recovery period, there you start getting your energy back when you do more healing that way. And then you have this integration period where you take the energy that you've healed, you've like nurtured, it's your little sprout of hope, and then you integrate it into the garden. So you transplant it into your world, all of this new energy that you have that's amazing and can help you be even more fruitful. So I shifted the energy. Instead of focusing on the pain, instead of focusing on the loss or the neglect or the conflict, I looked at it as if I'm streamlining, then let's just give myself a time period because I'm a recovering type A and I need a time frame. And I'm a very strategic thinker. And I'm like, this can't last forever. If I think this is going to last forever, it's going to stress me out. So I'm like, let's just do it 3 to 6 months. See who I become in 3 to 6 months. And if that helps me. And it did. It was massively changing. Prosperity started arriving. Things started falling into place that I had been waiting on for months, but I didn't have the space to receive. It's like if you think about receiving like hands, if you're so busy clinging on to things that are not working, your hands are full. But when you let them go and you surrender, having this reflection period and hibernation and rest, then you're able to receive because your hands are open again. So it shifts the energy entirely. It allows your discernment to be heard. That was another lesson learned that I have. It and I learned more about decision fatigue that I was experiencing. Every time we make a decision, it takes a toll. It might be a very small toll, but it takes a toll because it requires energy to process, right? I learned that my boundaries needed to be more firm. They needed to be more clear. They needed to be spoken before I felt burnt out initially. If I felt like something was crossed, I didn't slip into passive aggressive mode. I was like, hey, I don't think this was, maybe it wasn't what you intended, but this is how it came across to me. And that didn't feel good. And just being honest and very authentically raw with the people that I love in my life and the people that I have to connect with frequently about those boundaries when they were being crossed, so that it's no longer stealing my energy away through worry or despair or frustration. You're keeping all your energy in your cup. that was powerful, so powerful. And that rest needs to be a priority, which we covered in. And something my brother told me was you need to start checking in with yourself and saying, what do I need to have a good day? What about life right now I could do that would make today feel like a win or make today feel a little bit better, even if you only get an inch it's of improvement or feeling good. That still helps compound over time. So, what is one thing that is within your power to change that could give you back energy or time? This is your call to action. Think about it today as you're at this beautiful summit. Think about what do you have control over that maybe you're doing because it was a nice cherry on top or it was a nice additional thing. And what is it that if it doesn't feel good, or maybe it's a commitment you said yes to in the moment, but now feels more like a no, but you had still signed up for it, that you could release, where it's not going to create damage or upset, and you'll free yourself up to save more of your energy for tasks that really do matter for momentum building in your life. So I want you to make a plan. If this resonates with you, there are ways you can integrate it. Look at your 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why, and how, obviously, to make the plan. So if you're going to release something, maybe it's something simple and this is a little more intense than you need, but it's just something for consideration to plan around it, to integrate this little shift about maybe there's boundaries you could uphold better if that's something you struggle with, like I did. If it's not boundaries, if it's just committing to things and maybe you have other challenges, there's ways you can plan around that where it'll feel like you can get some of that energy back. So use your support system, your inner circle, use your resources, use your brilliant know-how, because I know you're just a gorgeous baddie who could use the resources and channel that into, hey, you know what? I deserve this. I need this little piece of my life back because then I can have it just grow or maybe just breathe. Everything comes back to the breath, okay? Give yourselves 6 to 12 months if you want, just rebuilding this habit. And as far as habit, like integrating whatever plan, that's what I mean. And, if it's not 6 to 12 months, maybe it's three, maybe it's 21 days, whatever feels good for you. If that feels good, beautiful, do it. It only takes 21 days to make a new habit, and you should also habit swap. So if you're doing something that does not serve you and you want to add something that does, swap it out so that you're not stacking and compounding your priorities, your requirements, like to have a good life. You're feeling like, okay, I'm going to do this in lieu of, in transition for. And remember that if you feel triggered by some of this, that if this activates some of those triggers, that's okay. That's a part of the process as well. Sitting with those triggers and saying, where is this trigger coming from? What is the origin story of this trigger is also very powerful to help resolve it, to acknowledge it. It helps to name it. If it's a feeling that you have, a strong emotion, name the emotion. Maybe give the emotion a nickname, call her Nancy or whatever feels good, and you can say not now, Nancy, and but acknowledging it disempowers the hold it has on us. And if you don't know where to start, I invite you to reach out. I would love to hear from you all. You can book an individual energy audit, which is something that I'm working with one-on-one people. We could have a chat where I ask you questions to better understand like where you want to grow, where you're looking to grow. And if that sounds or feels good, feels in alignment, and you want to dig in further, we can talk about different options at that time. I also work with teams. So if you're an entrepreneur who has different teams, or if you work on teams, maybe you're in the corporate world and you have teams who report to you, and you're tired of saying the same thing 100 times with it not getting done the way that you want it to, we can take a look at those dynamics and see maybe there's some energy work in the underpinnings that might need just small tweaks that can be compounding benefits for you over time. So you can use that link as well to contact me or email, or if you want to follow on Substack, I do a lot of posts about the inner journey, the inner work, inner growth. And I would love to hear from you. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you for showing up here today for yourself, for your business, for the future of 2026 and all that holds for you. I hope this gives you a little bit more happiness back in your life. And thank you so much for your time.